You heard it on the radio. That's right. Rob Thomas, little Matchbox 20 right there. Good afternoon, Colorado. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Josh with K4CO Radio, president of K4CO. I am sitting here with Sarah as well, vice president of K4CO. How's it going, Sarah?
Hi. Well, good evening. I have to say good evening and happy fall. It occurred to me today that this is the start of fall, and boy, I am so thrilled that fall is here.
Fall is here. That is right.
Yes, summertime is over. So happy fall, everyone. Yeah, hopefully you got to go peep at some leaves. And it's still, I think there's about a 2-week-ish period, depending where you are here in Colorado.
Yeah. And it's going to be one of the cold days tomorrow. Finally, it's going to be, I think, a high of like 55 or something like that.
Yeah,
it's going to be wonderful. Well, we have a wonderful special guest in with us. Before Sarah introduces everybody, I want everybody to know K4CO Radio interviews candidates who hold or aspire to hold elected positions. K4CO Radio does not endorse nor contribute to any political candidates or political parties. We welcome our audience to ask any questions in the comments section, any questions or statements with the purpose to attack, insult, or berate any person or group of people will be deleted. So thank you very much, everybody. And now, after that, Sarah, who do we have in the studio today?
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you all for listening to K4CO Radio and starting off your fall evening with us. For those that are listening and probably driving home, thank you for paying attention and maybe letting them cut in. Just be nice, respectful. Everyone wants to go home to be with their family. But for those that want to join us on social media, please do. We encourage respectful, kind comments and questions. We absolutely encourage. This is a pretty special person that we have in today. So again, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, all of our K4CO Radio social media pages. So without further ado, and we're going to learn a new word today, which I'm super excited for.
We are. I already learned it, but I'll keep it quiet.
I know. Josh and I learned a new word, which is super fun. I learned this on the playground, but now it has a whole new twist to it. So today we have Mr. Bob Moore. He is a 2026 candidate for governor of Colorado. Welcome, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Sarah, so much. Thanks you guys for having me here. I really appreciate it.
It's absolutely. It's a pleasure.
And the word is gubernatorial, I think you're looking for.
Gubernatorial. Now, I've heard the word
gubernatorial candidate.
Yes, I've heard, and I shared this with you before. I've heard goober on the playground, right? When you were called a goober. Yeah. I thought, man, a gubernatorial is a candidate for someone running for governor, which is pretty amazing.
That's the official term. That's the terminology for it. So
well, thank you for educating us here at K4CO Radio. It's pretty fun.
Happy to help out.
So, this is pretty exciting. You're actually our first candidate that's running for governor. So, welcome. I think I could spend hours kind of unpacking your journey. What I really would love, where I'd love to start, is you are a native to Colorado.
I am, yes. Born and raised here.
Amazing.
Yeah, graduated from high school in Lakewood, Colorado. After that, went off to the military academy, got accepted to West Point, which you're familiar with, and started my journey through both the Army as well as the private sector, doing some reserve time after that. So yeah, born and raised here.
Nice. Thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. It never gets old of hearing that, I have to tell you that.
No, for sure.
Occasionally I'll hear that in the airport and other locations. It's always really nice to hear that.
I have the utmost respect for police, firefighters, those who serve in
first responders and military.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. We are very big supporters of that here, and personally I am too. My father also went to West Point a few years before you.
Just a couple, maybe.
Just a few. Hopefully, hey, Dad, if you're listening, another West Point grad is sitting here. So, and also I wanted to let people know, so the election is actually not being held this year.
That's right.
It is next November. So we have, correct?
That's right. There are some gubernatorial elections that are being held this year in November of 2025. Virginia, for example, is being held, but ours is in November of 2026. So yes, we have a little ways to go. The primary will be about June of 2026, and before that we'll have caucuses and stuff like that. But yes, it's a quite a ways away, 14 months.
Okay. Take us through your journey. Do people wake up one day and just say, man, I want to be the governor?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping not. I'm hoping there's a little more thought process that goes into it.
You never know with people. Sometimes there's just that idea. And
there are quite a few running, so I wonder how some of them get into the race. But for me, it was being born and raised here. My whole family here. My mom and dad raised 5 of us. Then I got accepted went off to West Point, the military academy, did my service with the Army, ended up deploying over to Afghanistan and Iraq, went into the reserves for a period of time. And while I was in the reserves, I helped to start up, got in on the ground floor of Compaq Computer Corporation, which you may have heard of, which was purchased in about 2001 by Hewlett Packard. So then started working for HPE and was an executive there, climbed up through the ranks, and then figured out, why not just, while at the same time I'm trying to lead at a high-tech company, let's go get a graduate degree. So I did. I went off and got my MBA at the University of Michigan, was accepted to Yale, ended up going to University of Michigan because I could do their executive program, and then did my tour of duty there as well, Iraq, Afghanistan, as well as doing a year at the Army Command and General Staff College, which I graduated from. Ended up culminating my career as a lieutenant colonel in the Army Special Forces Operation Group out of Fort Bragg. Yeah.
Wow. That's quite the impressive journey right there.
It's been a long
Goodness.
one, but a little arduous, but I'm happy to have the experience.
I always think it's not the peaks, it's the valleys that define us. And I tell people every day, go do something that challenges you. And if you can stretch it even further, do something that you are scared of or have a little bit of fear of. And that is where I believe that we grow.
Yeah.
Is when we are really pushed to a new extreme that we never thought possible.
I think that's right, and that's when you get into any type of public service, especially running for an office, that's a little bit intimidating. So that probably qualifies as one of those experiences. It's a growing experience for sure, or at least I've found that out in the last several months that I've been involved with this.
Right. Yeah, the campaign trail sounds definitely daunting
It
and
is.
hard looking, from an outsider looking in, and what's interesting, so how many people are candidates going into this?
Thanks for asking that. I really appreciate that, Sarah. There are quite a few. And I hear this question a lot because a lot of people think that maybe we've got too many. On the Republican side, we've got about 18, maybe 19, possibly even 20. So, yeah, it's quite a few. And I hear the comment a lot, and I've heard this in different groups that I've talked to. Gosh, seems like a lot. That's a little overwhelming. Maybe we should just narrow that down. And we have a natural process for that. So it's not for any one or two or three of us in the state to decide how many we get. That wouldn't be freedom. That wouldn't be how the Republic operates. We go through a caucus program, a caucus meeting that will narrow that down in the primaries and all that. But we do have a pretty big field. But I really think that's great because it indicates how many people in Colorado, at least on the conservative side, really think it's time for a change. A lot of people throwing their hats in the ring, willing to dedicate their time, money, energy, effort to help restore some common sense to Colorado. So I think the fact we have quite a few is a good thing, not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll narrow that down and eventually get to the, small group that we want to put on the primary ballot, and then we'll go from there into the general election.
So you said it's around 18 or 19 on the Republican side. Do you know how many are on the Democrat side?
Sure, I do. The leading candidate, of course, we have Senator Michael Bennet, who's probably, I think, maybe the presumptive front runner there, and then Phil Weiser, who's the Attorney General. And then we have a number of unaffiliated or independent candidates. Now, you might not be aware, or your audience may not be aware, but, the unaffiliated or independents make up 40 to maybe even 50% of the state. So that's a big voting bloc.
Really?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The Republicans, registered Republicans, are about 23% in the state of Colorado. Democrats about 26%. So actually, the vast majority are unaffiliated or independents. And so there are some of those that have thrown their hat in. Now, they don't have a party that will back them or support them or provide funding, perhaps, and they don't have a caucus or a primary they can go through. Of course, we have open primaries here, so independents can vote in any primary they want to. But, yeah, there are quite a few of the unaffiliateds. And I think that's really important to remember because as we go to the general election, we have to remember that we've got to appeal with common sense. If we'll just lead those independents and unaffiliateds, I think they'll follow us with our common sense values.
I had no idea that almost half of our state was independent. So my thought would be, so you don't get the phone calls?
That's why I do it.
So, I mean, I can speak for a few people that just say, I don't want to be,
Sure.
bombarded.
So I don't get the polling.
Right? Why do you think that there's so many that are on the independent?
Well, I can give you my
unaffiliated?
personal view after talking to people. Even some of my own brothers are unaffiliated or independents, registered independents. I think that they see that especially lately, the Democratic Party has really gone far ultra left, and they've created some legislation. They've drafted some bills that are just really abhorrent to some of the independents, like House Bill 1312, which, not to get into a lot of detail, but that was the one that would strip you, the parents, of their custodial rights, their custody of their children, if you use the wrong gender pronouns. And I think the independents really see that as not being or having common sense for Colorado. And so they don't want to identify with the Democrat Party. And for some of them, perhaps, some portions of the Republican Party might be really far to the right and maybe not appealing. And so people register as independents. And since they can vote in either primary, Democrat or Republican, that gives them that flexibility. I think that appeals to them. But yeah, it's a big voting bloc, and we need them. But if we'll just lead them, I think they'll follow us. I think we have some common sense here.
I kind of agree with that too as well. And like in my mind, it's if you're too far on the right or too far on the left, you've gone too far.
It's extremist issues. Right?
It is
extreme.
It absolutely is, because I remember growing up with my family. They'd have people over, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't who did you vote for or what color are you. It's are you red? Are you blue? It's let's talk about issues. And it was a conversation,
right,
type thing, and it's very different these days.
I was mentioning earlier that to Sarah, I think we had that conversation that back in the day we had Jack Swigert from the Apollo 13 fame. He came over to my parents' house and we had the conversation. And back then it wasn't that divisive. You could talk about issues, and you had half Democrat, half Republican, not so many independents, but we've definitely changed the demographics, which is important to understand if you're running for office. The demographics of the state of Colorado have changed over the past decade or two.
Do you find that, so we welcome anyone on here. We don't care if you're independent, Republican, Democrat. We have found, or I have found, when you're having conversations out, lunch, dinner, just everyday people, that we are rather moderate. Right? We usually aren't kind of picking sides, and we're having very respectful conversations. Where do you think the breakdown is when you go from us little people down here to maybe the bigger boys that are doing more on the bigger scale? Why does it seem to tip the farther up? And these are my words, so maybe you see this differently.
Well, I think they get a little more polarized the higher up you go. If you look at our governor right now, Jared Polis, our two senators, Hickenlooper and Michael Bennett, I think that they really get very, very far to the left. And although they may try to be elected from more of the center, they definitely govern from the left. And that's why they create legislation and they sign bills like some of the restrictions on the Second Amendment that we've had here recently in Colorado. So I think it really becomes polarizing, and I think that puts them out of touch, frankly, with most of Coloradoans. I think it really does. I think Coloradoans are looking, by and large, for somebody that has common sense, is a little more moderate with some good, strong conservative values. They get too polarized, they get elected, and then they really govern from the far left, at least in this state.
One thing I wanted to mention, for those of you that aren't watching on social media, for those that are listening, I want to make sure that you have Mr. Bob Moore's information on his website, so you can go find more information, no pun intended. Colorado Deserves More, and that's MOORE.com, and how you can get involved, issues, events are all there. I wanted to unpack a little bit more on your game plan, if that's okay.
Sure.
On things that really stand out to you. So on your homepage, I love the Colorado Comeback.
Yeah.
Was that, to me, I'm a big football person.
Colorado Comeback, yeah.
Is that,
Colorado
but you probably
Comeback.
had something totally different.
Well, I'd like to have a comeback for Colorado and restore a little bit of common sense for Colorado. So, yeah, that's where I came up with that. And of course, I'm in marketing. I've done business almost all my life along with the military. So the messaging, I think, is pretty appropriate, along with Colorado deserves more. So I think that'll resonate with people. At least I hope so.
Yeah, of course. I love the play on words. That's what sticks with people. So I'm going to start with the first one, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think across the board, hopefully we all want to be safe, right? You want to have your kids be safe. You want to be safe going to and from work, when you're in school. I think that's when you said common sense. Would you agree, Josh,
I completely agree. I think most people just, want to be safe, want to have a decent job where they can pay the bills. And, I think a lot of people are very simplistic as to what they want, what they need.
Yeah, you know what the great thing about that is, you guys are both right, that those values really appeal to almost all Coloradoans, especially the independents and the unaffiliated, the Republican, even the Democrats. They want to be able to raise their families, make a decent living. And, we've gotten a little bit off track here, and we have some issues, which is kind of why I'm running, is because crime is one of those. We've become kind of the poster child for crime and gotten a lot of national visibility on that with the Aurora, with the Tren de Aragua, or the Boulder incident where people were being burned alive. We've got to take some steps to make sure that we support our police, and we don't want to be soft on crime. In my view, we don't want to be a sanctuary state or sanctuary cities, and that I think will help to making the state safe so that people can feel comfortable walking through the streets of Boulder. I've talked to people myself personally and that live in Boulder, and you know what they're doing? They are creating their own home watch groups where they have their own citizens having to go through the town of Boulder because the police, they're not enough of them, and we have too much crime going on up there. We've got to get away from that. Support our police officers, back the blue. And if it's important enough, increase the staffing for those police officers to make sure that we have safety. I think that's maybe my number one issue. Now, I've got several issues. There's taxes, there's the economy, but I think safety and security and reducing crime has got to be the most important thing we need to do here in Colorado. And it's gotten out of control. I mean, come on. When Colorado is featured on national news because of all these incidents national reporters saying, well, it's not too bad because Tren de Aragua has only taken over a handful of apartment complexes in Aurora, it's not good. We need to have safe communities. Number one priority for me.
I am curious to get a little deeper, if you don't mind. Because for me, I'm tactile. I'm very tangible, step by step. We don't have to get into your exact plans. But I mean, for me, this would be daunting. Where do you even start with how to make it safe? Where are you pulling funding from? How do you have more staffing? I mean, I've been learning a lot with our interviews, and it's been amazing to have people on, now there are 2 police officers, a lot going into schools and into churches and just patrolling. They always have extra backup now. So I'm curious, when you talk about crime and backing it a little more, what would be kind of your first 1 or 2 or even 3 steps of creating that?
Well, I think number one, we don't need to be soft on crime. We need to be a little more rigorous with our prosecution of criminals and not be so soft on crime. And I think that'll be a first step in the right direction. Number 2, we need to frankly protect our law enforcement officers. Our Attorney General, Phil Weiser, has just sued one of the deputy sheriffs because he was cooperating with some federal authorities for with the ICE authorities in particular. And I think that really sends the wrong signal. That tells those sheriff deputies that they've got to watch out because you don't have their back when you're at the governor or attorney general level. So I think that would be number 2. I'd stop all of that. And third, if we need more funding, or if we need, in some cities they've had the National Guard come out. Apparently, in some places like Washington D.C., that's helped a little bit there, according to the reports. And the mayor there in Washington D.C. has said herself that it's helped to do that. So. If I don't know that it'll take that, but if it would, then I would look into that. That might be the third thing.
I appreciate that. Thank you. For me, again, I see the big picture, and I like kind of the concrete plan. I know your brain works a little different than mine, but did you have any questions that were
No,
maybe in your brain?
no. I mean, we're definitely going to cover quite a few things, and everybody can go to his website, www.coloradodeservesmore, and that's MOORE, of course. And at the top, they do you do have issues, and you kind of spell it out, the exact issues that you're talking about. One thing that you did recently allude to, and you've did a couple times here before, is taxes. When it comes to taxes, especially when, as everybody hears here in Colorado, how much in debt we are right here. So how does that kind of go in with each other when it comes to wanting to lower the taxes and collecting more?
Really great question. That's perfect. Thanks, Joshua, for asking me that, because I wanted to get into this a little bit more and unpack this. Okay, so our taxes have gone up about 50%. State income taxes, I'm talking about, in the last 7 years under Governor Jared Polis, and our property taxes, depending on what county you're in, have either doubled or tripled. Now, this is really creating a burden on a lot of people. So we've got to figure out how to reduce that. And give everybody in Colorado a break on those taxes. Now, how do you fund that, or how do you fund more? How do you create more fund for the local police? Well, you can actually defund a lot of the organizations that Jared Polis has included in his administration. There are things like the Department of Regulatory Compliance, if you can believe that. We're already overregulated enough. Do we really need that? There are a lot of these superfluous organizations that we could cut back on and be able to save enough money. This last summer, we had a $1 billion budget deficit, right? $1 billion. And so the legislature worked hard over the summer to try to figure out how to alleviate that. And largely, and this really does irritate me a little bit, because the mainstream media, which is why it's tough for us conservatives to get our message out there, reported that as being a problem with the big, beautiful bill, House Bill 1, we call it, that actually reduced taxes. Well, the Democrats that were in our General Assembly were expecting all the taxes to go up as those Trump taxes expired, the tax breaks expired. So they're expecting all those taxes to go up. So what did they do? They budgeted for this huge tax increase that they thought they were going to get in Colorado. Because here's how it works. If you didn't know, just a little short diatribe on this. When the federal government creates a tax package, or reduces taxes, or creates differences in taxes, always we follow that precedence at the state level. So when the federal government says under House Bill 1, guess what, we're not going to have taxes on overtime. We would always follow that in the state of Colorado. We'd follow that precedence. But not our Democrats. What did they do? They said, we're going to go ahead and tax that anyway. So although when you work overtime, although you won't have to pay the federal income tax, thank goodness for the feds for doing that, in the state of Colorado, you will have the state income tax on that. So, when we get a gift like that from the federal government of reducing our taxes, they had actually expected the taxes to go up, so they had planned for all of that. And when they had their special session that Jared Polis called, then what they did was they just increased taxes. And then Polis had proposed to cut a couple of programs, which he did to higher education and stuff like that. But we can actually make up for that by, number one, reducing some of these frivolous offices that have been created in this state. And I could go through a list of a dozen, and you couldn't even believe how ridiculous some of these are, and save a lot of money that way. And we can also create some incremental tax revenue by just being a little bit more business friendly and attracting and retaining some businesses here to Colorado. So we could get into that, but I'll tell you, if you run the numbers, which I've done, with some of the investments that have been going on in some other states by some people like NVIDIA, with Jensen Huang, the CEO there, who I've met, he's investing $500 billion. That's $500 billion. Where's he investing that? Not in Colorado. It's down there in Texas, actually. If we had that being invested in Colorado, and you amortize that over about a 5-year period, which is about what it takes you to create all that investment or deploy all that investment. That's $100 billion a year, and at our current corporate tax rate of about 4%, give or take, that's $4 billion. That would be 4 times the amount of our budget deficit that we had. So it's just crazy. If we just be a little more business friendly, this irritates me so much. I talk to these businesses. A good friend of mine, his name's Mark. He's got a business there, a restaurant there in Parker, Colorado. He is obligated and regulated to report the number of to-go containers that are going out of his restaurant. I mean, we have been so over-regulated that we created Colorado as being one of the top 10 most unfriendly states to do business in. If we could just be a little more business-friendly, help small businesses here, restaurants and other locations, we could actually help attract businesses, and then they bring their employees who also pay taxes. So easy to overcome, just takes the right fiscal plan to do that, which I've got.
Wow. That was a lot. You are
That's a
very
big
educated.
explanation.
No, I appreciate that. No, I mean, we aren't in this world, so I really appreciate the unpacking. This is why I want everyone, no matter what side, to go educate themselves on really what's going on in the state.
Right.
And to have their own opinion and move forward. I thought that the majority of the Colorado business owners were the small to medium sized businesses. Is that a correct statement?
Oh, sure. I mean, nationwide, the biggest number of businesses are SMBs, or we call them small, medium businesses. Right. Small businesses, like my buddy Mark, mid-market businesses, and then, of course, you have the big Fortune 500 businesses, which I've been associated with and worked for and have been executive for the past number of decades. And those are important, too. But the small businesses are really key, and we got to make sure that it's a friendly environment for them. We have, if you look at the Fortune 500 list, we have about 8 really great corporations, Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered here in Colorado. If you look at a state about our same population, a little bit smaller, but same electoral count, 10 that we have, Minnesota, they have over twice that. So they got 17 Fortune 500 companies headquartered in that state. And I think that really kind of is an indication of how a little bit unfriendly we are. Now, we certainly have companies like Google that have opened big offices in Boulder, Colorado, and places like that. But I think helping and sustaining and supporting small, medium businesses is really key. We've got to be more friendly to those businesses and less onerous on the regulations for those companies. They're really what are the bread and butter, and that's what puts food on the table for most Coloradoans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know even me looking myself over the last years, you see businesses going out left and right in Colorado. I mean, even just, throw on like 16th Street Mall downtown. I mean, there's a lot of boarded up stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of your things is making it well for business. What do you attribute to a lot of these closings for? Is it the regulations that you were attributing that to?
We're overregulated. We're not business friendly. Here's a case in point. I'll give you a really great example. We had the House Bill 1, the big, beautiful bill, and it came through, and it created tax breaks for companies, corporations, right? Small, medium businesses. And it also created no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security, all those other things too, which were really great. When it came down to the Colorado level, they said, during the special session we just had, they said, guess what we're going to do? We're putting back in those taxes on overtime, and guess what? We're reinstating all those taxes on companies. Mm-hmm. So when those poor companies just got a break finally from the federal government, the state of Colorado, our Democrats that are in charge of the General Assembly there, and it's a pretty sizable majority, decided that we're going to reinstate those taxes on those companies. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is to pay for programs that, in my view, we don't really need. What we've got to do is make sure that we're friendly to businesses, because that's what Coloradoans, that's how we make our livelihood in Colorado.
Completely. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur voluntarily for the last 15 years of my life. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My brothers are as well, and we've all done the larger companies as well. You brought up something very interesting that I'm a part of a couple different chambers here. South Metro Denver Chamber is one of them that's near and dear to my heart. And we all get together very, very frequently. And I can't remember the number, and I'm curious if you know this. So a family of 4 in today's world, let's say kind of living in the southern part-ish, so maybe DTC or all the way down to Highlands Ranch, how much a family of 4 really needs in order to quote-unquote survive for every day. And maybe you know that number off the top of your head.
I appreciate that. Thanks for bringing that up. And actually, I've been to several of those Southern Metro meetings. They meet once a month, and I'm usually there. I was just there at the last one that we actually had. I think that the key thing is maybe not so much what it requires or the financial obligation, but how much it's gone up. And that's what really is the killer for families, where they used to be able to survive appropriately on the incomes that they had. Now it's up, 3 or 4 times that amount. Young families cannot afford new homes. Teachers, firefighters, military people cannot afford new homes. We really price people out. The economy is not working for everybody, and in particular, the middle class, which is one of my big goals, is trying to make the economy work better, make things a little bit more affordable for those middle class families.
I agree, and I don't even think that is a political debate in my mind. I mean, it really is.
I think everybody agrees with that. I bet you the Democrats, the independents, the unaffiliated, and the Republicans would all like to make things a little bit more affordable, right? Make the economy work for us.
Exactly. Right. It is very challenging. You usually have 2 people working, and it's very hard to make ends meet.
Yeah.
It is. We're seeing it across the entire state, and again, I don't think that is a political debate at all. I think it's how do you survive and how do you one day afford to have your own home? I see more and more kids these days that are graduating college, and all the kids are moving in together under one roof. A lot of them are moving back home, just simply they can't afford it. And I mean, a child today, if you're 18, you're still a kiddo in my world, can't afford, you're not going to go find $150,000 job right out of the gate.
Right.
That's just, my first job, I made, 20, 15.
Right.
And I was
and that was only a couple of years ago.
That was, sure, of course. It's just, that to me has changed drastically in a relatively short period of time.
Well, let's talk about housing a little bit, because that's a really good issue. And it's tough for new families, young families, to afford homes here. And it's tough for, more senior families to afford homes here, especially with all the taxes and property taxes. So listen, I'm not proposing, nor would I try to facilitate a proliferation of, really low-cost, low-income, affordable housing. What I would like to do is be less regulated on the home builders, so that we can actually develop homes that are not astronomically or exorbitantly expensive. Give you an example. There's a lot of developments around here. When you tap in, you're doing a new development for 1,000 homes or something like that. And by the way, we're like 200,000 homes short in this state, and so we've got to have two. You see a big development we got to have 2 of 1,000 homes. We got to have 200 of those to try to make up for the shortage. But to tap into a water main, as I talk to some of these builders, to tap into a water main, the city water main, because they got to get water there, it's like $100,000 to tap in that. I don't want to bring up Texas again, but other states like Texas in particular, it's like $4,000 to tap in. It's just so a housing permit in Denver takes you 10 months. I just looked this up, 10 months. The city of Houston, with Mayor Whitmire down there, he just reduced that to 30 days. If they can do it down there, we could do it up here. But the reason is because we want all that extra regulation and the extra taxes and the permitting fees and all that on top of that. And so that really makes the cost of regular homes that these young families need a lot more expensive. We don't have to be like that. We don't have to be overregulated. We can reduce the permitting time. We shouldn't have to wait 10 months, but that's what the average is if you look it up. And for the city of Denver, when we got the city of Houston south of us doing it in 30 days. My goodness sakes, we've just lost our way in this state.
So do you think a lot of the pricing when it comes to that are those regulations, are those permits? Because to me, I'm just going to speak like somebody who doesn't know anything, because I pretty much don't. I bought my house, 20 years ago, for about $220. Now they say that a first-time home buyer here in Colorado, you're probably spending about $600, $700. I can't even fathom that as a first-time home buyer. And I would think, okay, we're building a development right here. Well, we can pretty much charge anything we want, but all the houses are going around 700, so we're going to charge that. Even at the same time, houses are getting less expensive or cheaper to build in my mind when it comes to
Materials.
You certainly have economies of scale, right? So that if you're building a large subdivision and you're pulling up 1,000, then you get economies of scale because you've got a lot of building materials that you're purchasing and stuff like that. That does help reduce the cost. The permitting cost, 25%, give or take. I should put a disclaimer on this. It varies, of course, from place to place, and so that's not a hard and fast for every single place that we're developing homes. But about a quarter is going into these regulatory permitting fees and the water tap fees and all that kind. A quarter. So just take those home prices and take a quarter off that the government is collecting, and that would certainly be helpful.
I'll speak from my own little personal world. I owned my own dog training company for about 11 years, and I had this cute little idea of having puppies in my backyard. And I thought, man, I want to go own a boarding facility. 4 years of my life I dedicated to try and find this, and I went through that exact process. That I'm just going to go find this little piece of land, and I'm going to build. And boy, was that really challenging.
I'll bet.
It was, you have to now pay for repaving. You have to pay for the water tap. I was blown away, even in residential HOA neighborhoods, that you have to go now buy that. I mean, it does. It prices people out. And this is, it hurts individuals and it hurts businesses.
It does. There's a really good book that goes in a little more detail about that. If you've read it, it's by Neil Gorsuch, and it's called Overruled. And it's really great, and it actually indicates some of these overruled. Neil Gorsuch, I just read that a couple months ago. It was fabulous. Every American creates a felony about once or twice a year because you don't realize all of these laws and regulations and permitting things. Yeah, it's insane. Overruled.
A bunch of felons. I knew it was coming.
You should read that. And part of that are all these permits to include things, crazy things like the size that spaghetti, how thick spaghetti can be. All these. Yes, I'm telling you, it's all documented in this book. Wow. We've gotten so overregulated, it's just crazy. You have to have a permit if you're a kid in the scouting program and you're gonna use a rabbit to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Well, you got to have a permit for that because you're using a live animal as part of a public display of a magic trick. I mean, we've just gotten crazy.
I'm gonna go find rabbit and spaghetti after this interview.
Go find Neil Gorsuch's book. It's a good one.
Well, everybody, if you are tuning in, thank you very much. So we are sitting here with Bob Moore, candidate for governor of Colorado. If you don't mind, producer has alerted me to just a couple questions. And if you are watching on our social media platforms, please feel free to ask some questions. I'll just leave it at that. So this one comes out. We love our community right here. So the question is about Wall Street. So ending Wall Street and large real estate investment corporations from buying up the housing market. According to the viewer, the amount of homes controlled by corporations has tripled.
Yeah.
And they're wondering about that. And that's regulations that this person is looking at.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that person's absolutely correct. What we see is these large conglomerates buying up. And why do you think that is? Because they have the capital that they can do that with. And why is that? Why cannot normal families afford that? Because they don't have those huge sums of capital. So if we could just be a little less regulated and bring the home prices down to where they're affordable for families, we could actually have families be able to purchase those homes, young families, teachers, firefighters, first responders, military people, instead of these corporate conglomerates. But when your housing gets completely priced out, what happens is those big conglomerates, they come in, they buy up swaths of homes, and then what do, they rent them out, right, to all of these. But the American dream is to be a homeowner, and we need to be able to do it. So we should limit that, and one of the ways that we can do that is make them more affordable for people that really deserve to buy those homes. Colorado families that really need to buy those. Wall Street is doing that, but we've created the environment because we've made them so pricey here in the state of Colorado. Who comes in? Huge conglomerates. Yeah, we got the capital. We can do it. We'll buy them all up. We can't have that. We can't keep going like that.
Completely, yeah. The foreign investing. I mean, that has been going on now for a few decades.
Yeah.
Again, you are the expert on this, but we could kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit with the overseas purchasing, and lots of land all of a sudden was swept up. And it's interesting that I think as a nation, kind of missed that. But I mean, if a little person like me can kind of go, what are they seeing that we don't? And this is going to ensue lots of problems.
Yeah.
Same thing on a larger scale with education is what I'm seeing. I have a 6-year-old son, so I'm also seeing some trouble brewing. And, it's an interesting demographic and platform. I have very different conversations with a 6-year-old than I ever thought I was going to be having.
I'll bet these days, for sure.
It's super... they're very more mature and more adult. I thought it was don't push Timmy on the playground. And they aren't those conversations at all. It's very, they do weekly drills at their school. And it is we won't go into some of the adult concepts, but I think people that are parents can understand. And again, this isn't a political debate. It is, are our children safe? And I feel as a mom and as a sister and as a daughter, you always want your family to be safe no matter what.
For sure.
You don't want to be scared of going to school or going to work and having to look over your shoulder. And so I love that and we'll go to the next question here, but I do and for those of you that just joined, please go back and rewatch this because we talked about crime in the beginning. And I think that's a very valid point. And
it is for sure,
and
and we have some school shootings, which is really, really tragic. We had Charlie Kirk that was shot with really, really tragic, and we need to protect our kids that are at school and everybody in the communities, and we need to do that in a logical, responsible way, without overly restricting Second Amendment rights. For sure.
Sorry, Josh, do we have more questions?
There is actually another question that did come up. Homelessness is a huge problem. Downtown Denver used to be safe, well taken care of, and a great city. Do you have any solutions for this growing problem?
I do. Yes, I sure do. Mayor Johnson down there of Denver has not done a really great job of helping with the city of Denver. We got a lot of homelessness. And we have spent, and those people that are on the list for assistance, home assistance, that are Colorado residents, have kind of gotten pushed to the bottom of the list because we've been giving away a lot of free housing to illegal immigrants, which although you can be sympathetic, this is controversial, no, you can be sympathetic with their plight. Coloradans have to come first, in my view. They really do. So we need to be able to give that housing assistance to those people that really need it. And then we need to clean up the streets so that we bring those people off the streets. And if we weren't I think if we're not such a sanctuary city in Denver, we'd be able to clean up the homelessness quite a bit and provide the home assistance that they need there in downtown Denver. it's gotten to be quite a problem, quite an issue. And I see all the reports, and I see the videos and the social media reports like everybody else. It looks pretty bad. To include the need to provide some type of mental health assistance, because I think a lot of the homeless, even if you provide them some home assistance, place to live, have some mental issues that they need to work through. And so I think we need to provide some type of mental assistance program for them as well.
I definitely agree with having resources, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's what draws me to the chamber and the nonprofit world is we're all trying to find these niches of how to help. Bridge House actually just popped up into my brain. They are a nonprofit where they take the homeless off the street, they house them, and they also employ them. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's similar to that. Lots of mental health nonprofits. It's across the board. And
years and years ago, we called, I think it was the first President George Bush, called it 1,000 Points of Light. If we could just help facilitate, encourage, and perhaps provide some funding for those, that would really go a long way in helping some of those homeless people.
I agree. So, were there more questions that popped up?
Go for it. No. Do you have something?
No, I wanted to make sure that those. Thank you for those that are tuning in and listening. I wanted to go through kind of the timeline before we wrapped up, but
Sure.
I know you have. I
did want to mention one more
please,
thing that would be on my top list of things, and that's the roads. The roads are a little bit of disrepair, state of disrepair in Colorado. I drive them like you guys do every day, and boy, they're congested, and especially when you get up on I-25 and you get close to 6th Avenue. Now we're going to have a new stadium right there on the east side of 6th and 25, so the congestion's going to be good. But I can solve that. I guarantee you I can. If I can just get 4 years in as the governor, I'll fix all the road disrepairs, all those potholes, and work with the people at the federal level to get more funding to be able to alleviate some of the congestion. I think, we have a lot of issues here. Roads, the taxes that are exorbitant, the economy that's not working, the business unfriendly environment that we've got. And the thing that really irritates me most, why we've got all these issues, is our General Assembly is over there with the governor, and they're working on these frivolous bills, House Bill 1312, instead of really solving big issues. If I could just get 4 years, just give me 4. That's all I'll take. Give me 4 in there. I'll fix the roads. No problem. I'm a registered, licensed professional engineer. I've built roads, bridges, and highways. I've been in business with the Fortune 5 Compaq and HP and NVIDIA Supermicro. I can make this a more business-friendly environment. I can turn around the economy and make sure that it works for everybody. I can help alleviate some of this homelessness, and I can certainly make the state a little safer and solve some of the crime problem. We just need a change. We need people that are courageous enough to vote for and support somebody that's going to make a change in this state, because we can't. It's not sustainable. Our state income tax has gone up, as I mentioned, 50% over the past 7 years under Governor Polis, and our population's about stagnant, up maybe 2 or 3%. Not sustainable. You're going to tax everybody out of here. A red flag alert. We've got to change course, and we have to have people that are brave enough to make a change and support people that want to make that change. So I did want to make sure I get into the roads there, because, boy, that's a big issue for a lot of Coloradans.
I agree.
Especially Coloradans. And I want to say just real quick that I was talking to you a little earlier before we went online, and I said, I have never thought about moving out of Colorado. I love Colorado. Until about the last 5 years, I'm like, I don't know. If things keep going a certain way, I might. And I do think that, a lot of, how many times do you go out and you meet a Colorado native who's still here? It is very rare these days.
My mom and dad raised us 5 kids here in the state of Colorado, 5 kids. And everybody but me, my 4 siblings, will have either moved out or will move out because of the exorbitant cost of living and a little bit of the political environment that we've got. And that's really sad. And my own mother, who lives here, is faced with the fact that, that the property taxes have gone up 2 or 3 times. She has sacrificed her life as a registered nurse working at Denver Health, working and raising a family here in Colorado. And what does our legislature say to her? We're going to go ahead and increase your property taxes, and I'm worried that the over 65 exemption is going to go away. So one of my biggest priorities, if I can get into office, is I'll make this commitment to everybody right here. If you're over 65 and your mortgage is paid off, no more property taxes for those people. They've paid their dues. They paid through the nose to the state of Colorado. We don't need to be taxing them out of their golden years. We need to let them enjoy the twilight years of their life here without all these crazy taxes. It seems like, you're continually paying and paying and paying, at least in the state of Colorado. We've got to stop that. So I'm sure I can make that happen.
Wow. Mr. Moore, thank you for explaining the plan. I mean, we unpacked a lot in an hour. Truly, I think we could have a couple hours with this gentleman. Again, this is Colorado Deserves More, MOORE.com, to find out more information about him. And I wanted to go over again because we have a year before we really know who's going to step into this.
A little over
a year.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of myself. So you have a Lincoln Day dinner with Laura Logan coming up on October 2nd.
That's right, up there in Weld County. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Okay.
So that'll be really great. And people, if you want to attend, you can go online. I'm sure you can get tickets, and it will be a really great event. It's nice for us Republicans to get together, like-minded people, and hear from somebody who's got some really high visibility, some great name recognition.
Okay. Agreed. Keep knocking it out of the park, right? And then after that, you have a roundtable with all the candidates, which is super interesting. So this is Saturday, October 18th, so right after you meet with Laura.
That's right.
And this is with everyone who's currently running, correct?
October 18th.
October 18th, yes.
Yeah, October 18th.
Okay.
It's going to be up. It's the Northern Colorado wrap-up or roundup session with all the candidates, and I think all the Republican candidates actually have accepted to be there. And so it'll be a chance for people to come and meet and greet. We'll have tables there, and we can talk through the issues, and that way people can see who they really like of all these candidates. I will certainly be there along with some of my staff members, and like to see anybody that wants to come up there. It's on my website. You can get the details right there.
Okay. Speaking of your staff, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, the campaign trail is arduous.
It is.
For me, looking on the outside in, it just looks like, man, you have to really want this and really want to support the state. That's the way I look at it. So,
Sure.
How big is your staff? Who's kind of walking this trail with you?
Let me start by saying you have to really want it. You don't have to really want it for yourself. You have to want it for the citizens of Colorado. I think you got to remember that. I'm in this race to try to help Colorado because we've gotten so lost here recently. And, I'm perfectly fine. I could go out, and retire and have a great life and play golf every day or do something like that. But I really feel a personal obligation to try to help straighten out Colorado and return some common sense. There are a lot of people that feel like that along with me that have volunteered to work with me. So I've got, a campaign manager, Marla, who worked for the Trump campaign here in 2020 and 2024. So I'm happy that she's helping us along. I've got a social media team that's helping keep my sites up to date and do all that stuff for me as I create the content. Events manager who's helping to put together fundraisers and stuff like that because it's an expensive race. No doubt about $10, $20 million for a gubernatorial race. so it can be expensive. So yes, and then a whole other group of people that are very supportive, and finance manager, that's really key. You've got to have a pretty good solid team behind you.
Well, it sounds like you do have a solid team, a lot of support, which is wonderful. I think we all need that in life, especially if you are a gubernatorial
candidate.
If everybody's watching, if they just learned that word today, I had
Josh
no
and
idea.
We truly had about a 30-minute conversation about it. I'm like,
is
are you
that
sure? So we did do a little, digging around.
You got to make sure you spell it right, though. Sometimes people misspell that.
Well, I have it written. I don't think it's anywhere up on our world. So that'll take us to the end of the year, and then March is another.
Yeah, we'll go through
the
on the Republican side, we'll go through the caucuses in about February, March, and that way we narrow it down. it's this is how the process. This is how freedom works. This is how Republic works. We've got a caucus. We've got a lot of candidates. As I said early on, circling back to that, I'm really happy we do. A lot of people willing to sacrifice their time, money, energy, effort to be part of this. We'll narrow it down to a handful of candidates on the Republican side that will then go on the Republican ballot. That will then have the primary election in June of 2026. At which time, about June. Probably June, at which time we'll select one that will then go to battle the Democrat that's going to be, and make no mistake, it's going to be a battle. And I'll just leave you with one thing. I think to win this, to return some common sense to this state, to do things right, to reduce the taxes, to make the economy work for everybody, to help with the homeless problem that we talked about, to fix the roads that are around here, you're going to have a fighter, because it's going to be a battle for the very soul of Colorado. You've got to have a fighter. You got to have a warrior. I just happen to have a lot of combat experience myself, so I'm sure I can lead us on to victory.
Well, that was pretty well said.
Well, that was a good ending right there.
Mr. Moore, thank you. Truly, thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. And thanks for having me.
And educating us and informing all of our viewers and listeners of what your plan is. And, we wish all of the candidates luck going forward. It's no easy task to take on this journey, for sure. Again, for those of you that joined a little bit late, this interview will be saved forever on YouTube. It'll be on, I believe, LinkedIn as well, forever.
I believe as well, and then Facebook for about a month.
About a month, yep. So you can rewatch it, or for those of you that joined late, please do go back if you want to be informed. That's always my soapbox at the end, is to say, please inform yourself. I feel very, very blessed and fortunate to be not only in the United States of America. This is what I told my son over the weekend, that we have freedom and we get to go educate ourselves and use our voice. And that is our God-given right as United States citizens. So if you want to have a voice, go out and vote.
Yep.
That's always my soapbox.
And definitely, be educated too. I mean, if you enjoyed this interview, no matter what you think, share it. Tell people about it. Tell people to listen to all the interviews, because we have, another 13 months? 14 months going on. And I always say that your community, pay attention to what's going on in your community because you live here.
It's where you work.
So,
it's where you shop.
exactly.
It's where your neighbors are. It's where your kids go to school. And it's been a fascinating journey for me, at least, to be on this side, to how much I've learned about not only my city, my state, about the United States. And this is our backyard. And it's been wonderful to be educated. It's a big piece of it. So again, you can go to Colorado Deserves More, MOORE.com, to find out more information on the candidate Bob Moore running for governor of Colorado.
Yeah. And best of luck to you and all the other candidates.
Thank you, guys.
And
Appreciate you
all I
having
know
me.
is that, of course, all I know is I love Colorado. Been here my whole life.
I think our best days can be ahead of us.
I like it. I hope so too. Thank you very much for tuning in. And if you did catch the end of it, definitely rewind it. Check out the whole interview. This has been K4CO Radio. And also, in a half hour, you have 1 solid hour of all the Colorado musicians that are in our rotation every single day from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then this is also a special week where all day Thursday and all day Friday, we have nothing but Colorado musicians all day long. So it's going to be absolutely wonderful. We're coming up on K4CO Radio's 2-year anniversary on Thursday. So enjoy all the wonderful Colorado musicians, everybody. And then, of course, tonight, all new episode of Kind of Vague Radio, hosted by Andrew Talent and Rob Dixon. And everybody have a wonderful Monday evening. You guys take care.